My mom smiled the night my life went up in flames. Not a hysterical laugh, not some shocked giggle. A real, satisfied little smile as orange light flickered across her face and my small rental burned down behind me. I was barefoot on the sidewalk in a giant old t-shirt, shaking from the shriek of the fire alarm and the stink of smoke, when my family's SUV pulled up like they'd managed to snag front row tickets. I'm Nina, I'm 28, and standing there in the street on the east side of Phoenix, watching my parents pose with my burning house behind them, I finally understood I'd never been part of the family they put on display. I'd just been the backdrop, the person they pointed at when they needed something to blame. My mom, Melissa, stepped out in leggings and a branded sweatshirt, took one long look at the smoke billowing out of my roof, tilted her head, and said in this bright, almost pleased voice, "Well, I guess the universe finally took out some garbage for us." My dad, Eric, folded his arms across his chest, stared at the flames, and added calmly, "Some people invite bad luck. You've been asking for this." They didn't ask if I was hurt. They didn't look at my bare feet on the cold pavement or the way my hands shook. They pulled out their phones. They snapped photos of themselves with the engines behind them. My sister angled for selfies, making a sad face with burning wood in the background, joking about which caption would get the most engagement. My little brother actually said, "This'll blow up on TikTok." One of my cousins muttered, "This is what happens when you let drama run your life instead of family." And another laughed. I didn't shout. I didn't break down for them to record. I just watched my mom hold up her phone, listened to their laughter mixing with crackling wood, memorized how it sounded, then climbed into a rideshare and told the driver to go, leaving them on the sidewalk with their content and my landlord arguing with the fire chief. A year later, I walked back into their lives. No gasoline, no matches, no screaming confrontation. I just stopped doing every invisible thing I'd always done for them, and I got to watch their carefully staged world start to crumble, all on its own. If you want to know how the cursed one turned out to be the only person who could have kept their lives from catching fire, and why I chose not to, let me rewind. But I grew up a Blake. Blakes don't just have a family, they have a brand. My mom built a whole online persona around being that mom in suburban Phoenix. Candid but curated photos of matching aprons and Sunday dinners, reels of perfectly chopped vegetables and chore charts, long captions about faith, grit, and how family is everything. My dad ran a small pool and landscaping company that he loved talking about, like it was a Fortune 500. He'd tell anyone who'd listen that he was up at sunrise while everyone else was sleeping, and that excuses were for people who wanted to be broke. My older sister, Jenna, is a nurse with a ring light. She films a day in my life clips on her lunch breaks, carefully editing out the parts where she goes home and leaves the bills to someone else. My younger brother, Kyle, Nam, was constantly chasing the next shortcut to being rich, selling sneakers one month, day trading the next, always one flip away from never working again, always one bad week away from asking someone to spot him just this once. In their narratives, they're all the heroes, the hustlers, the survivors, me. I was the one in the background making sure none of their checks bounced. I moved out the second I could, exchanging the 4-bedroom in Chandler for half of a creaky duplex on the rougher side of Phoenix. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine. I could hear myself think without someone asking me if I'd thought about a real career. I worked as a financial analyst for a SaaS company, basically the person who made sure cash didn't quietly leak out into stupid places and that other people's businesses didn't set their books on fire. Funny how the only place my skills got treated like they were optional was at home. "Can you skim this brand deal?" Mom would send, attaching a PDF. "It's so boring. Just tell me if they're trying to screw me." Dad would dump a shoebox of receipts on the counter on holidays and grunt, "Just make sure the IRS doesn't come for me, will you?" Then wander off. Jenna would hand me her laptop at family gatherings, a half-built spreadsheet on the screen, sighing, "This budget math makes my brain hurt. Make it look cute, but not like we're going broke." Kyle's texts were a steady drip of quick questions that were never quick and always ended in, "I'll cash you out next month, promise." At first I told them I didn't mind. It was nice to be useful, nice to be the one who could untangle the hard stuff. They never learned, though. They never even tried. They treated me like a free app they could open, press, fix, and close. I started forgetting which favor I'd done for who and what I was still supposedly going to get back. So I did something I knew how to do. I started tracking. One night, sitting on my couch in the little duplex that would eventually burn, I opened a new workspace in Notion and titled it Blake Ledger. Every time I rebuilt a spreadsheet for Jenna, I logged it. Every time I filed Dad's quarterly taxes for him, I logged it. Every time I set up autopay for Mom's medical stuff or reorganized Kyle's loan payments so he didn't default, I logged it. Not because I was planning to bill them, because I was gaslighting myself into thinking I was crazy for feeling so tired. On social media, we were the hashtag Blessed Blakes. Offline, well, I was the floorboard you don't see, the thing holding up weight while everyone else dances on top. And when my house went up in flames and they laughed, the little numbers in that Blake Ledger page stopped feeling like help. They started to feel like evidence. The morning after the fire, I woke up in a motel room off I-10 to the smell of burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. I was on a hard mattress in a room someone else had slept in last night, staring at a popcorn ceiling with a faint water stain in the corner, trying to figure out where my life ended, and the smoke began. My phone was face down on the nightstand. When I tapped it awake, there were no missed calls from my family asking where I'd gone or if I was at a hospital. There were notifications, a screenshot from Kyle of my duplex, blackened and taped off. Ear caption, new decor, who dis, 3 laughing emojis, a shot from Jenna's story, eggs Benedict and mimosas, hands clinking glasses. Her caption, funny how some people insist on playing with fire and then scream victim when they get burned. Under that, Mom's latest grid post, a cozy shot of her living room with fairy lights and her kids on the couch. Caption about rest after a long week with those who matter most. Like she hadn't stood at the curb and joked about my place burning while I was barefoot in the street. I set the phone back down before I threw it. Email was safer, colder. There was the preliminary report from the fire department, the forms from my renter's insurance, the auto response from my manager saying to take whatever time I needed. I defaulted to what I always did when something went wrong. I opened my laptop, slipped into professional mode, and started fixing things. Claim forms filled out, photos uploaded, inventory lists made from memory, follow-up email sent, replacement card ordered. While my family was composing captions, I was doing the tedious part of recovery. Not one of them offered me their couch. Not one of them said, come stay until you get back on your feet. Instead, a coworker I'd only had lunch with twice sent a simple text. Hey, heard from HR. If you need a guest room or help with boring forms, I'm around. That one line made me feel more human than my entire bloodline had the night before. Within a week, the insurance adjuster had approved my claim. Within 2, I'd signed a lease on a tiny studio south of downtown with paper-thin walls and a leaky faucet, but 4 walls and a lock with no Blake keys. First night in that shoebox, surrounded by borrowed furniture and boxes that still carried a hint of smoke, I opened my laptop and pulled up the Blake Ledger. I scrolled. Dad's taxes, quarterly, yearly, Mom's medical paperwork, insurance snafus fixed, collection letters negotiated, Jenna's endless wedding budgets, shower plans, girls' trip cost splits, Kyle's loans tracked, his one more bailouts logged, his crypto losses mapped. The tally hit, and a thought nailed me in place. If I put what I was doing for them and what they actually did for me on a scale, it wouldn't just tip. It would crash. They branded me as the cursed one, the chaos agent, the weak link. But back behind the stage, and I was the one keeping their whole act from collapsing. Once I saw it that way, I couldn't unsee it. Life eventually filled back in. I got used to the hum of my new building, the sound of my upstairs neighbor's TV, the bus routes from South Phoenix to the office. My family's group chat stayed loud. I mostly muted it. Oh my God, 1 year since the dumpster fire, Jenna posted in there that June. She attached a boomerang of her blowing out candles on a patio, Kyle in the background pretending to fan the smoke away. Caption, here's to burning bridges and never looking back. Flame emoji, champagne emoji. Must be nice to rebrand my nightmare into their growth arc. They still wanted my help, though. Dad forwarded an email from his accountant that same week with, is this serious? Oh, I thought you handled all this? It was a reminder about a filing he'd ignored. Twice. Jenna DM'd me a rushed, venue needs final numbers, plus I think we're over budget. Can you wave your magic spreadsheet wand? Mom texted a photo of a medical bill with, this looks wrong. Call them for me. Kyle asked if a little loan would really hurt me, if it's just temporary. They were apparently unfazed by the fact that I'd had to watch firefighters chop holes in my roof. To them, that night was over. To me, it was the line between, maybe this is just how families are, and no. Around the anniversary, Jenna posted a reel, Sometimes life forces you to let go of what's holding you back. Let it burn. Start fresh. Over clips of her redecorating the house, Mom commented. Proud of you for stepping into your best season. I knew I was the what they'd let go of. I pulled up the ledger again. This time, instead of just logging their asks, I opened a new section. Exit plan. Step 1. List every account, system, and recurring favor tied to me. Step 2. Detach. Step 3. Endure the backlash. I didn't have to torch anything. All I had to do was stop playing the invisible firefighter. I started with a message that looked more innocuous than it was. Hey, I wrote in the family chat. Wanted to let you all know, I'm stepping back from handling your finances/paperwork. Over the next month, I'll hand back access and take my info off everything. After that, I won't be available for taxes, budgeting, loan stuff, or health portals. I'm just giving you notice so you're not surprised. Bubbles popped and vanished as people started typing. Kyle. LOL? What? Jenna. Is this about that stupid meme? Come on, Nina. Mom. We'll talk this through at dinner. Don't make decisions like this by text. Dad finally. Do what you think you have to. Just remember, blood should be there for blood. I didn't argue. I just started. For Dad, I exported all of his bookkeeping from the software I'd set up, cleaned it as best I could, and wrote a simple checklist in plain English. What was due, when, to whom, what forms were coming up. I put it in a PDF titled Business Read This and emailed it, CCing his accountant. Then I changed the primary admin email in the software from mine to his, removed my own login, and let the system send him the "You've been made an admin" notification. He replied 5 minutes later. Just got some weird email about logging into some accounting thing. Fix it. It's yours now, I wrote back. All caught up as of today. After this, you'll either need to log in yourself or hire someone. I'm not your bookkeeper. His only response was, you're overreacting. Mom got a folder. I logged into her patient portals one last time, pulled a list of upcoming appointments, outstanding balances, lab results, and step-by-step instructions on how to reset her own password and update her own info. I printed them and slid them into a manila envelope with her name. Then I turned off all the alerts on my calendar that said things like, Mom, dermatology follow-up, and call Blue Cross rebill. That night, I dropped the envelope at her doorstep and texted, everything for your health accounts is in the envelope by the door. From now on, it's between you and your doctors. She called within the hour. You know how much I hate those websites, she said. You're doing this now, after everything? You post about taking ownership of your life, I replied. This is part of that. What is this really about? She demanded. Your apartment was insured. You got paid. You're holding on to one night like it's the end of the world. It was the night you showed me exactly where I stand, I said. I'm adjusting accordingly. I hung up. For Jenna, I duplicated her wedding budget sheet, tidied the formulas, left comments next to key cells, explaining what was paid and what was pending. And then I forwarded every vendor email back to her and removed myself from all the chains. You'll want to keep a close eye on these, I wrote. Deadlines and amounts are in the documents. Your planner can help explain the rest. She called me 3 times in a row. Her voicemail. You can't bail now. The florist needs final payment. I don't have time to figure this out. This is literally your thing. You're sabotaging the biggest day of my life because you're hurt. I didn't respond. For Kyle, I sent one last spreadsheet. Columns of every small loan, date, amount, his promise to pay it back. A total at the bottom. Text attached. This is what you already owe me. I'm not asking for it back, but I'm not lending you anything else. Period. His reply was predictable. You serious? Over some burnt drywall? So you're gonna do your own brother like this? I turned my phone to Do Not Disturb and went to bed. The cracks appeared fast from my side. Dad texted me a picture of a stern letter from the state tax authority. What am I supposed to do with this? He wrote. Call a CPA. It's their job, not mine, I answered. He left me a voicemail full of the word ungrateful. Jenna's texts shifted from indignant to panicked as due dates approached. The venue says, if I don't pay by Friday, we lose the date, she wrote. The photographer wants a second installment. I feel like I'm drowning. Read your contracts or get your planner to walk you through them, I wrote back. I'm not going to. Mom missed a specialist appointment and got hit with a cancellation fee. She sent me a screenshot of the charge. This is what happens when you abandon your family, she wrote. No, I replied. This is what happens when grown adults don't use a calendar. Kyle's tone went full anger. You know I planned on that money, he wrote. My next drop is gonna bomb now, thanks. You planned on my money, I replied. That's the problem. He didn't speak to me for a month. Then he texted from a new number asking for a job reference. I didn't answer. A year before, my house had burned and they'd laughed. Now, their carefully balanced versions of adulthood were being tested without my behind-the-scenes help. I didn't get any pleasure out of the IRS letter that made Dad swear when he finally read it, or out of the Instagram post where Jenna downgraded her lavish ballroom wedding to an intimate backyard celebration to honor what really matters. Well, maybe a little, but mostly I felt free. Because for the first time, when people in my family felt the heat from problems they'd ignored, I didn't immediately run into the smoke. I stayed where I was, in my 400-square-foot studio with cheap furniture and my own bills. I cooked. I worked. I went for runs along South Mountain. I helped friends with their budgets when they asked like I used to help my family, only this time they said thank you and occasionally paid me. My circle got smaller and saner. The neighbor who'd offered me a place after the fire became a real friend. We swapped dinners when we were both too tired to cook. My coworkers were the ones who checked in when a nasty cough took me down for a week. Not my mother. The ledger in Notion changed, too. The Blake Ledger page still exists. It's just archived. Where the one that matters now is titled Nina Life. Instead of Dad's quarterly filings and Mom's test results, it has entries like therapy, 4 sessions this month, emergency fund, plus $200. Said no to weekend work I didn't want. If you're waiting for the scene where my mom shows up sobbing and apologizes and we fix everything in one hug, I don't have that for you. She never did. Dad never has. Maybe they never will. What I do have is this. The night my house burned, I watched my family laugh and film it like they'd paid for the show. For years after, every time their lives caught even a spark of stress, they threw water at it with my hands. When I finally took my hands away, the blazes they'd been ignoring for years spread. Not because I set anything alight. It's because that's how fire works when you pile dry kindling and refuse to admit it's there. They called me cursed. They called what happened to me karma. A year later, karma looked less like my duplex on fire and more like their lives finally adjusting to a world where the cursed daughter wasn't quietly keeping everything from burning down. If you've been the one everyone leans on while also being the butt of the joke, the disaster, the weak one, the cursed child, I want you to know, you are allowed to put the matches and hoses down. You are allowed to walk away from a house that would happily watch you burn. You are allowed to stop saving people who wouldn't hand you their spare blanket. That isn't revenge. That's self-respect.